Electric cars, clean, green and great value. Or so we're told. Your car is one of the most expensive things you'll ever buy. But is this new electric dream all it's cracked up to be? How far will it get you?
If your car breaks down when you're in the middle of nowhere, then what are you going to do?
How much are they really worth?
So it's lost £34,000. £34,000!
And how well do those batteries actually work?
Battery affects price, it affects reliability, it affects the carbon footprint of the car. All journeys lead back to the battery.
Tonight we find out what they don't want you to know about electric cars. The government has said that by 2030 we'll have to give up petrol for electric cars. But is that realistic? Where better to find out than Heston Services, the jewel of the M4.
I think electric cars are overhyped. I just don't see the sort of longevity of them, really.
I like my cars. Electric cars don't really have that kind of excitement for me.
I do tend to think that the older generation probably buy an electric car because they can afford it.
With 1 in 5 of us saying information about EVs is contradictory, we're here to separate fact from fiction.
You can never replace the feel of a petrol car going on the motorway. You just can't. Simple as that.
One of the top concerns about EV cars, how long the charge will last before it runs out.
You can't blame motorists for being worried about this before they make the switch to electric.
In fact, 4 out of 5 drivers are terrified of being stranded with nothing but the hard shoulder to cry on.
Range matters to people when they want to do a long journey, because that's when you need to know 200 miles is going to get me to my destination.
But car companies have tried really hard to reassure us. The new Audi EV has an advertised range of 469 miles, which could get you from Brighton to Edinburgh in a single charge. The latest Kia boasts up to 375 miles, and VW claims up to 424 miles. But are numbers like this achievable in day-to-day life? To get to the bottom of this, we are conducting a little test. And who better to get the most from an EV than actual world record-holding driving professionals, Kev and Sam.
Another challenge, red car and a blue car one this time.
Game on. The 2 records we've got are for the longest journeys in electric vehicles on a single charge. And the idea of doing those was to try and really see how much further we could extend the range of the vehicles by use of efficient driving.
We always have a little bit of a game between us who can be the most efficient when we're actually driving together.
If anyone knows how to get the most miles from an EV, it's got to be these two. To help us with our test, we're using 2 identical Kia Niros with an advertised range of 285 miles. Both are starting on a full charge. Careful Kev will be in the blue car, being as efficient as he can, watching his speed and limiting his usage as much as possible. In the red car will be Speedy Sam, sticking as close as possible to the speed limit. He's going to drive like one of us, with the heating on and just wanting to get from A to B. After a 130-mile round trip, will either of them show anywhere near the car's advertised range? Straight off the mark, Speedy Sam is away.
I have very eagerly left the services and jumped onto the motorway. I'm doing the maximum speed limit. We've got the heating on. Not worried about the range. Sort of a cavalier fashion of driving how I want.
And careful Kev?
Basically, I'll be trying to drive smoothly and efficiently to get the most miles per kilowatt hour, which means more range out of this size battery.
Any driver knows that how you drive can affect your fuel consumption. But it's more than just a heavy foot on the pedal that can drain your range.
Battery temperature is also a major factor. So you will see better range in electric vehicles in the summer than you will in the winter because there's less rain about and the batteries are inherently warmer.
In fact, you could be getting over 100 miles less on a cold winter's day compared to a nice warm day in July. And it's not just what's outside the car that can hold you back. Pretty much all systems in your car can have a drain on your range. Tiny impacts from the likes of a heated steering wheel and charging your phone, but heating and cooling can cost you valuable miles. And even necessities like your windscreen wipers and headlights can reduce a car's range. On a busy day, running everything together can lose you around 30 miles on a 3-hour journey. Although Careful Kev can help claw a few miles back by taking things slower.
So when you're driving between 60 and 70, there's a lot more drag, which means your car is having to use a lot more energy to push through the air. So actually, those 1 or 2 miles an hour extra don't really make your journey any shorter, but do take a lot more energy.
Despite that, are most people really going to drive like Careful Kev? No, we're more like Sam.
This extreme case that we're trying to replicate here is probably just normal world for most people. You know, they want to sit here nice, toasty, warm, thank you very much, and they want to travel down the motorway or any road at the speed limit they're allowed to do. It'll be interesting to see how that changes versus Kev's more conservative approach.
Our drivers are on the home stretch of the 130-mile route, returning to Severn View after a detour through Wales. Last one buys the overpriced coffees.
So we're just driving the last 1.2 miles, so we're just going over the bridge now.
Welcome to England. The real learning curve is when we park up back at the services, no doubt plug the cars back in again, and then have a little bit of a swap around on data and see how we got on.
You have arrived at your destination. It's time to find out just how much range Careful Kev and Speedy Sam can really get from these cars.
Well, I drove in a, what's the word I've been using today, Kev? Spirited fashion. So I've done maximum speed limits, done 130 odd miles, and I have used 69% of the charge.
I've been driving in a more conservative way, so keeping up with the flow of traffic, being smooth and consistent. So I've got back here with over 54% left.
The stats are in. Speedy Sam came back with a measly 29% left in the battery, so that's around 60 miles remaining. Careful Kev managed to come back with a healthy 54% left on his battery charge. That's an incredible 25% more than Sam, and he's still got 125 miles left to use. How does this compare to the manufacturer's claim that you get 285 miles in a fully charged Kia Niro?
The range that they'll see advertised in adverts is the maximum quoted range, not what you're likely to get every day.
We found that Speedy Sam would get around 200 miles before he'd need to find a charger, which is 85 miles short of what's advertised. And even Careful Kev's super efficient driving would only reach around 235 miles for full range. That's still 55 miles short.
The problem with the advertised range is that it's based on ideal conditions. So it's based on a flat road with the sun shining, little braking or accelerating. But when you're out and about, that's called real life.
Despite EVs following strict guidelines on the range they can claim, it's been found they can fall 40% short on the range they advertise. So if you do buy an EV boasting a 400 miles range, I'd take it with a big pinch of salt, especially with our British weather. Coming up, can an EV be a bad investment?
It's up for sale at 44 grand, so it's lost £34,000. £34,000!
Plug it in.
And how can you get more from a home charger?
The postman hasn't mentioned the fact there's a cable running through the letterbox.
In 2010, we bought just 138 electric cars, but by 2024, there were over 380,000. But with EVs setting you back on average 50 grand, is buying an EV realistic for everyone?
My first car when I was 17 was a Ford Fiesta, which I got for £50, and I certainly don't think you'd pick a second-hand electric car up for £50 these days.
I think electric cars are overpriced. Compared to a normal petrol car, they're a lot more expensive.
The only thing that would be able to convince me to change my petrol car to an electric car would be to make it ultimately cheaper.
In fact, the cost of electric vehicles is the biggest barrier for us, with 64% of motorists saying new EVs are too expensive.
In terms of sticker price, the electric car is more expensive than the petrol or diesel.
A new EV can be more than double the price of an equivalent new petrol car. But will it keep its value?
Some models that are only a year old have already gone down in value by £30,000.
So, is it possible to get a bargain? If anyone knows, it's motor journalist Tim Rodey, who has all the best deals.
There's no doubt that new EVs are more expensive than their equivalent petrol or diesel alternatives, and they do depreciate a lot more quickly. After 12 months, the rate at which EVs and petrol and diesel cars lose value does basically balance out. But what this means, if you're looking on the used market for an electric car, you're going to make a killing financially.
Buying new is bad for your wallet. But if you buy a used electric car these days, there's a bargain to be had.
A couple of years ago, we saw some real instability in the prices of used EVs. We saw values dropping quite significantly overnight, but it has stabilised, and we are now seeing used EV prices really settle down. In terms of the tax breaks that we had on EVs, they have changed fairly recently. So you're going to pay £195 a year to tax your EV. So actually taxing an electric car is nowhere near as cheap as it used to be.
What about when it comes to selling the car on?
In terms of depreciation, that's how much a car loses value over time. EVs depreciate a lot more heavily than petrol or diesel cars. That can be really painful if you've just bought a new EV and you've lost a ton of money in the first year. However, if you're coming to that car as a nearly new or used buyer, you're getting a bargain. You're getting a load of car for a lot less than the list price.
But it's still pricey.
It's an electric hatchback. It's a similar size to a Volkswagen Golf. This was 28 grand a year ago when it's new. It's now 17 grand. It's lost £11,000 in just over a year. The BMW i5, it's the German brand's premium electric saloon. It was originally £77,000. A year later, it's up for sale at 44 grand. So it's lost £34,000. £34,000! This one was 38 grand, down to £22,000. This one was originally £39,000. It's down to £23,000. So all of these electric cars are less than 2 years old, and they've lost lots of money from new.
Even if they were both driven for 6 years, EVs still depreciate around 10% more than a petrol alternative. If you don't mind your new car plummeting in value and are just out to bag a second-hand bargain, then it seems an electric car could be for you.
That's always been the hardest point to get past. If you can get cost right, people will buy the car.
Once you buy your EV, the next thing to get your head around is where to charge it.
No, nowhere near enough charging stations. My mum actually drives an electric vehicle, and she has a nightmare at charging stations.
And they are expensive. Well, if you rent anywhere, you've got to make sure there are charging ports near you.
But you have to sit at a station and charge it, which is ridiculous. You could just fill up your card.
It's an infrastructure that just hasn't been built.
Almost half of motorists feel that the charging network isn't fit for purpose. And for the third of Brits without off-street parking, home charging is off the table too.
There are parts of the country where it's very difficult to charge a vehicle. The network is quite complicated and difficult to work with. These are real concerns.
So we want to know, how easy is it to charge a car? This map shows how the UK's public charging network isn't evenly spread, with some charging deserts where people live 16 miles away from a charge point. This all comes at a premium compared to home charging, which is cheaper.
The reason it's so much cheaper than public charging, which is a great unfairness, is because VAT is levied at 5% on domestic electricity and it's 20% on public electricity.
In Essex, the council have said they will need to add 5,000 more charge points by 2030 to match demand. The lack of public chargers is an even bigger problem if you don't have one at home. Steve Ray lives on the outskirts of Colchester and couldn't get a home charger due to council restrictions.
So the charging cable would come out of this wall from our bedroom, and it would run along this wall here, under the grass here, so that we would simply connect the car's cable to the charging point here. Really quite simple.
Or so he thought.
Unfortunately, the Borough Council and City Council have made a carte blanche decision that no flats that are owned by the council will be allowed to have any kind of charging point because they say it's a safety hazard.
The council policy said that charging points need a designated off-street parking space to be installed to meet safety standards.
We don't have a safety issue if the cabling goes under the grass. Nobody's going to trip over it. It's not going to be in anybody's way.
Ultimately, as a consumer, you get penalised if you don't have a driveway. That's unfair. I hate to break it to you, but we don't all have off-street parking.
So, in order to charge his car, Steve drives 15 minutes away to a retail park. And he's not alone, as only 37% of EV owners say they live within a mile of a public charger. And the cost can be as high as 89 pence per kilowatt hour, which is a whopping 3 times more expensive than the average home charger.
We have to drive over here every time we need to charge up.
This retail park has 8 charge points.
You can't always guarantee that they are all working or how many people are on the actual chargers at any one time. So it can be a bit of a nuisance. To put a full charge into this vehicle using one of these, it'd probably take about 3, maybe 4 hours.
The price is a sting too.
I think this is around about 79p a kilowatt hour. To charge this vehicle up, let's say 25%, is between 16 and 20 pounds.
After spending over 6 months using these pricey public chargers, it's good news for Steve, as his appeals to the council finally paid off and they've agreed for him to get a home charger installed.
It would be cheaper because it would be coming off my private and domestic electricity meter, and it would be more convenient. Having a home charger is almost a must, really.
In 2025, it is now actually more expensive to use public chargers than to run a petrol car. However, utilising a home charger can work out even cheaper than petrol.
It's still a slight postcode lottery for public charging availability. Basically, wherever there was greater uptake of electric cars, whether through ease of access or wealth.
44% of the UK's charge points are in London and the South East, while only 15% are found in rural areas in England. Just a few miles from Steve, in his charging desert, is Adrian. He's an engineer who has really gone to town with his home charging. If you thought this was all straightforward, you can think again when it comes to EVs.
Most people start off with a 3-pin plug. We've had this one installed, and that will charge at about 2.2 kilowatts, which is quite slow. When we had a charger installed, this is a 7 kilowatt AC charger, which will then charge the car up overnight. This is our old Type 1 charger, which isn't really around much anymore. But what we've done when we've got the Dolphin, which is a Type 2 charging point, we've ended up with 2 sets of cables, which is why we've got 2 different types of cables here.
Unlike the simple nozzle that puts petrol in your car, there are a whole range of charging connectors an EV might use, and you have to make sure that your one fits. Type 1, Type 2, CHAdeMO, Tesla's own. You literally can't move without the right one. In the UK, the go-to now is Type 2, meaning cars with less popular connectors can have fewer options for public charge points.
It's VHS versus Betamax. VHS is one, and so this is pretty much old now, and only a few cars have this. Nissan Leaf and a few others.
The older models are lovingly called Legacy.
So Legacy, it is the technology which didn't win, and so it is going to be phased out over time. We've ended up with this sort of spaghetti junction, but it will just be one charger, one cable, and life will be a lot simpler.
There's one more cable that savvy Adrian wants to save some money with.
So this is a vehicle-to-load connection, which will go through to a 3-pin plug. It's what I use in the house.
This lets Adrian use his car as a power source, but that does mean a cable through the letterbox.
So far, the postman hasn't mentioned the fact there's a cable running through the letterbox. I'm sure they've seen worse.
Being canny with his electricity for his electric cars, along with his solar panels and heat pumps, have saved him over £1,200 a year.
The heater comes directly from the car. It's using either cheap overnight electricity or free electricity. The car will power anything up to 3.5 kilowatts, which is any 3-pin plug socket. I've used it to wash the carpets, strimmers can go around the back of the house.
All of this can save you money, but we can't all be Adrian, and to install a home charger in the first place is an expensive job.
Ballpark budget for that is about £1,500. So you'll probably need to run your EV for maybe 1 or 2 years to eat up that extra cost.
It makes all the sense in the world to go for those electric cars, provided you've got space to charge it. In a way, this whole transition to electric has been very nice if you've been wealthy enough to join in.
Coming up, we get a closer look at an EV's battery.
The battery heads from the front to the back. It's pretty much nearly the full scale of the car.
Even closer than that.
So this is an X-ray machine that allows you to see inside objects the same way that we would use a medical CT scanner in a hospital.
There are more than 33 million cars on UK roads, and 1 in every 25 is electric. So that means breakdown services have had to adapt to cater to the needs of EVs. In 1905, 4 car lovers got together to try and help motorists avoid police speed traps.
That lower down chair. Go easy. I say, thanks awfully. But who are you? Automobile Association, sir.
This group eventually became the AA, known throughout the country for supplying breakdown services and saving the day for drivers in a pickle. Chris here is one of 3,000 AA patrols that attend around 10,000 breakdowns a day.
Every day is different. It's very dependent on what jobs you get in. Everyone loves the flat battery jobs and the spare wheels jobs. Nice, easy, quick jobs. You're always guaranteed a happy member at the end of it.
As EVs are still relatively new to our roads, Chris needs to be well armed to fix as much as he can.
People are very surprised at what equipment we carry and what we hold inside our van. It is like a bit of Aladdin's caves. In here, the van's absolutely packed full of tools and trying to repair as much as possible. Our most frequently used bit of equipment, our boost pack, alongside the battery tester. Check what condition the battery's in, see what's going on. Then what we'd do, if it requires a bit more of an in-depth test, we'll put our boost pack on, get the vehicle started and then monitor what's happening on that battery. Now, this is for any flat 12-volt battery, and even EV vehicles do have 12-volt batteries in them, so we do still see flat 12-volt batteries in EV vehicles as well as petrol and diesel.
Chris has to carry some specific safety gear too.
So these are protective gloves for high voltage vehicles. They're rated to 1,000 volts. Anytime we're going near any high voltage component, battery or connector, would have these on. We've got a thermometer, which I'm sure everyone's used to, a temperature thermometer, infrared, that I'm sure everyone's used to since COVID. So again, we'd go to the high voltage battery, would point this at the battery, make sure there's no thermal rise in that battery to make sure it's safe to approach.
What a well-stocked van.
To us, it might only be basic, but to them, if we can repair it then it saves their day, essentially.
The AA say 80% of call-outs are fixed at the roadside by the likes of Chris, but there's still his secret tow-away weapon if he can't repair an EV on site.
So in the back of here, we've got our compact recovery trailer. As much as we'd like to say we can fix everything at the roadside, it's impossible. So it does come out quite frequently during a week, definitely.
But more electric cars on the road doesn't necessarily mean more EV breakdowns.
From our statistics of what we're seeing at the AA is that although we do see some EV vehicles break down, it's actually getting less and less, and we're expecting it to drop even more as well. So it's hard to say. It's still early for the EV world.
So will we be seeing Chris and his AA mates driving electric themselves?
We are looking to go electric. We do have electric vans on the fleet already. It's just the towing capabilities that we need at the roadside. But when you do tow with an electric vehicle, you can tow with them, but it puts a lot of strain on the motor, so you can't tow as much as what we need to.
So I guess the AA aren't fully ready to go toe-to-toe with EVs. You won't get far in an electric car without a battery, but do we know enough about them?
No, I don't trust the batteries.
Diesel, petrol engines, internal combustion has been around for many, many, many years. I mean, so have batteries, but not powering things like cars.
I don't know anything about the batteries. I just know that you have to charge them, but that's not convenient.
Nearly half of petrol and diesel drivers are worried about how long EV batteries can last. Battery tech is always being updated, so much so it's hard to keep up. Specialist EV mechanic Luke White is just the man to bring us up to speed.
The battery is the main consumer of the energy, which powers the motors. One of the most important components in the vehicle. Without the battery, obviously, nothing else works. The battery heads from the front to the back, under this armoured casing. It's pretty much nearly the full scale of the car, maybe 75% from front to back, so the whole way along would be the battery. It's made up of loads of cells, and that's where it keeps its power.
And this is only possible thanks to one thing.
Most EVs are lithium-ion batteries now. They're really good at, obviously, consuming the energy, holding it and working in different temperatures.
That's some pretty impressive tech, which is reassuring because in an EV, the battery is everything.
Battery affects price, it affects reliability, it affects the carbon footprint of the car, range anxiety, charging anxiety. All journeys lead back to the battery.
And they're not cheap.
A rough indication of how much it would cost to swap a battery over would probably be around the region of 10 to 15,000. And I think even on an ICE vehicle, petrol or diesel, if you're changing the engine, you're probably looking at around the same price as 10 to 15,000 as well. I've been around electric vehicles since 2015 now. I've only ever seen one battery replaced, and that was for a flood damage. I have seen a few armoured casings changed over the time, but the whole battery itself was obviously safe.
It all comes down to the big question: will they last?
There was a lot of noise around how long a battery's going to last. Are they going to last for as long as other vehicles or not? A lot of people may commute up motorways every day, and supercharging the vehicle, that's going from a very low mileage to fully charged really quickly. Sometimes that isn't the best thing to do for the batteries for a long life.
We've all had smartphones and laptops that have failed because their batteries could no longer hold charge. And if that happens to your EV, that's a big, expensive replacement.
Let's get to the bottom of this once and for all. Here at University College London, they're trying to find out how long batteries last.
Battery degradation is one of the key concerns for consumers. They don't want to invest a lot of money in something that is not going to be working as well in 5 years' time.
Rodri Jervis is an associate professor in the excitingly named Electrochemical Innovation Lab. He spends his day looking inside batteries.
So this is an X-ray machine that allows you to see inside objects the same way that we would use a medical CT scanner in a hospital, but we use it for batteries and other electrochemical devices.
The machine produces thousands of X-ray images.
We end up getting a virtual 3D image of the battery and, crucially, what's inside the battery. So we use this to look at certain modes of degradation in lithium-ion batteries. You can just about see some of the structure that we have in these cylindrical cells.
Basically, the nicer that looks, the stronger your battery charge will be. And there's a reason they need such a powerful machine to get a closer look.
Batteries are made up of particles that are somewhere between 5 and 15 microns wide, so that's less than the width of a human hair.
The battery being tested here is the kind of thing you can find in an electric car.
Those are the actual electrode materials, the active materials in lithium-ion batteries, the things that store and release lithium ions in the battery. This is a virtual slice. These electrodes are designed to be squashed into the cell as well as possible to increase the energy density of the cell.
Rodri and the team have put this battery through 800 charging cycles.
So we charge them up at a particular rate and we discharge them at a particular rate. And we do that a number of different times.
Sounds like fun. That is like 10 to 15 years of use of an electric car.
There can be some internal stresses within these electrodes that over many, many cycles build up to cause some areas of deformation. And as we go through the height of the cell here, you can see that we're getting some quite significant deformation here. The cell still functions pretty well, but around those areas of bending, then the materials will be less active and we will lose some capacity.
Looks a little bit dodgy. Does that mean I'd end up in a lay-by calling the AA?
So this battery still holds a quite significant amount of charge, probably around 70% of its original charge. Actually, what we've been finding in real use scenarios, the car batteries are actually degrading slower than we expected. So a lot of manufacturers are kind of surprised how long the batteries have been lasting in the field.
So battery degradation of electric cars may not be as bad as we all thought.
It's not like in a phone battery where what you want every day is maximum charge so that your phone lasts all day and you charge it every day. EV battery is a bit different and we do treat them a bit more gentle kind of cycling procedures in order to get that lifetime out of them. And I think we're seeing EV batteries last longer than manufacturers expected currently as well.
Finally, some good news, but it's still something to keep in mind.
Battery degradation is one of the key things that impacts the resale value of your EV. You don't want to be splashing your cash on an EV and then not knowing how long the battery's going to last on it.
Electric cars are still an exciting new market. And like anything new, that comes with a risk. And not all manufacturers are equal. At least 30 EV companies have faced bankruptcy in the last decade. And one of these promising startup cars was the Fisker Ocean.
The Fisker Ocean is an electric SUV from Fisker. By all accounts, the car was pretty good.
But the financial difficulties of a startup ultimately got the better of the company.
Fisker ended up going bankrupt, having delivered a handful of cars to actual consumers who'd actually paid money for it. Those consumers, unfortunately, up a certain creek without a paddle now.
Jose DeBardi was one of these customers who rushed to buy a Fisker Ocean.
I got the car December 23 and then got hit with the news early June 24 of Fisker has gone bankrupt. I paid the full retail price for the car at about £65,000, and you know, a year later it's worth maybe £20,000.
Jose was drawn in by some unique features.
This is indeed my Fisker Ocean Extreme, to give it its full title. This has things like solar sunroof. You can go into Hollywood mode, which twists this screen around.
To add insult to injury, the car has a nice welcome message too.
Thank you for joining us. Sit back and relax and get ready for the drive of your life. I'll see you on the road. Thank you.
I mean, it is a good drive. I'm not sure it's the drive of my life. Henrik Fisker was CEO of Fisker Automotive. His presence in the vehicle annoys a lot of people because, obviously, what has happened.
The bankruptcy affected more than just the price, though. Software companies stopped their services.
At the moment, we've got the TomTom Map app open, which lost its online ability, and I don't think we're going to get that back. The other one that's currently affecting us, at the moment, you get this error because the company that provide those web apps for streaming pulled the service because Fisker haven't paid them.
This could even pose a safety issue too.
These days, many modern cars are designed to be online, connected. They are all software driven. If there's a problem with the vehicle, such as with the braking system, to fix that is a software update that has to be done more than likely over the air using connectivity.
Jose's experienced the unknowns you face when buying a new car.
When it comes to startups, as Fisker showed, it can be more of a gamble.
Coming up, is your car as secure as you think?
Most people today just simply won't be aware of the data that is actually being captured by a vehicle.
And not all heroes wear capes.
We are ethical hackers. The idea being we find the bugs before the hackers do.
Finding a car can have a long checklist, but how many of us would stop to think about how our cars can store our data too?
I did not know that they store data on an electric car. Well, your personal data.
If they use that data properly to make my experience better, I don't really mind that.
It just seems a bit sort of Big Brother.
What is the problem with anyone knowing what you're doing? But, you know, where does it stop?
There's no doubting EVs are very tech-dependent.
Electric cars are heavily reliant upon software to manage the vehicle as a whole, manage the vehicle dynamics, and interact with the external environment.
More reliance on tech makes modern cars a privacy nightmare. A report put them as the worst for data security, making them less secure than your phone. It's time to sum up those long terms and conditions to find out just what privacy risks these cars can pose. Cybersecurity campaigner Martin is a lot more clued up than most about this.
As a driver, you've got the keys for the car knows you're approaching, so it will start to come alive. It will start to store information about you, it'll open the doors. It's probably taking photographs of you from the wing mirrors, all the sensors in the car. So it's generating and storing a huge amount of data as soon as you get near the car. Most people today just simply won't be aware of the data that is actually being captured by a vehicle. They certainly won't be aware of how it's being used and how it's being shared.
It's been found that 25 major car brands collect and share personal data, including location details, facial expressions, and even genetic and health information.
Initially, it's all to do with safety. You know, people wanted to make their cars safer, so they believe that the more information they can collect, the safer it will be.
However, car companies state they collect and share things like consumers' behaviour, characteristics, and even psychological trends.
They will share that with all sorts of organisations. It could affect you getting a loan on a future car. Many of these organisations are then sharing it with third parties. It could be to data brokers that are then selling it on. Data is the new gold for them.
It's estimated that by 2030, car data monetisation could be an industry worth $750 billion, making money from often unknowing consumers.
There's a complete lack of transparency of what people are consenting to. You're signing away their ability to pull data from that vehicle. Is the average person aware of what type of data that they're talking about? I suspect not.
And this data isn't just kept inside the car.
Many vehicles today have Wi-Fi connectivity. Many vehicles have SIM cards located in them. And, you know, say that things like charging points, when you plug into a charging point to recharge your electric vehicle, it's like plugging you into a network that suddenly enables all the data to be pulled out of the vehicle and potentially shared.
Martin does have some advice for peace of mind, at least.
There's previously for cars that provide a free report where you can go and see
what data is being captured by which manufacturers and how they are using it. And that's simply just typing in the registration plate of the car, and it will come back with all the documents that are linked to that car and what is being collected and what is being shared.
From this, EV drivers can find out how to deal with any potential privacy risks. This doesn't stop the fact that most of us wouldn't think twice about sharing our data in a car.
People just don't understand, I think, what's in a car. This is a mobile phone with wheels, basically, and it gathers a lot more information, and most people would not share their mobile phone openly. So why would they share the data in a car?
Car manufacturers collecting data is one thing, but does your EV also expose you to hackers too?
If that data gets into the wrong hands, if it's not encrypted properly, then, hackers can do some serious damage with that, including identity theft.
In rural Buckinghamshire is a crack team of computer engineers headed up by Ken Monroe.
We are ethical hackers. That sounds like a contradiction, but actually we're brought in by organisations to hack their systems in a controlled fashion. The idea being, we find the bugs before the hackers do.
He and his team have been working on EVs and their chargers for years and have discovered a few issues.
So when you connect something to the internet, it's really important that the manufacturer gets the cybersecurity right. And unfortunately, some of the EV charger manufacturers rushed their products to market. We've looked at lots of different brands and found lots of different cybersecurity failures. So here we've got a Wallbox EV charger, which is great for charging up your electric vehicle, but it's smart and connected as well. We found a couple of problems. One, we found it wasn't checking that you were you when you connected it using your mobile app, which meant that anyone could take control. And we also found some problems inside the charger with the chips, which meant that we could steal your Wi-Fi password. Once you've got the faceplate open, you can pop out one of the chips, and then you can connect that to a reader and discover your Wi-Fi password. It could take a hacker as little as 10 seconds to read the Wi-Fi key to the house from this. So once the hacker's got your Wi-Fi key, they're on your home network. And imagine all the systems that you've got at your house. You're probably looking at social media, your password could be exposed, your home router might be compromised, and all your traffic might be read. It's quite serious getting someone's Wi-Fi key.
All chargers can be different, and the companies that make them are constantly working on tackling any possible bugs in their products. Wallbox has said that as part of their process of continued improvement and adapting to the latest regulations and the highest standards, they launched a new hardware platform in 2022, which includes advanced security measures. But how can we protect ourselves against charger hacking?
If you're at all concerned, actually don't connect the charger to the internet. Use it as a dumb charger, and instead use the app that your car provides and let the car do the work instead. The reason that mobile apps for cars tend to be a bit more secure and robust is that if one of those is hacked, you run the risk of your car being stolen. So the car manufacturers take their responsibilities really seriously.
I think many people feel like their car is an extension of their home. In the same way that you want privacy inside your house, you want privacy inside your car.
It's clear that electric cars aren't necessarily the perfect dream we've been told about. But the fact is, EVs aren't going anywhere, and they can be the right choice for many people.
Broadly speaking, people are in favour. They can see that it's progress, and they can see that electric cars offer something perhaps a bit different and better than both petrol and diesel.
Although it's still not the answer for everyone.
EVs are divisive. What works for some motorists is not going to work for other motorists.
I really feel for consumers, There's a lot of conflicting information. I would love to see the government do some sort of really simple public information campaign about the pros and cons of going electric.
Good or bad, with such new technology, doing your research is vital.
There are still things that you have to iron out when it comes to EVs. But what we do know is that they're here to stay.